taken so long, but it was still there and it happened. Let's just say the probability of this happening was as much as the probability of RCB winning the IPL title. Well, I'm talking about a conversation with Harsha Bhogle.
So
the
you're
voice of
suggesting
cricket.
RCB could win it this year?
I'm talking about the one that happened already, the women's
The
IPL.
women's one was fantastic.
Okay, so let's cut to the start, as they say.
Okay.
How does broadcasting for a game look like? How does the whole flow happen?
It is an engineering marvel. The commentary team is the icing on the cake. I've used this parallel before.
Yes.
That the cake has been baked by somebody else. If there is no commentary, you can still watch the telecast. But if there is no engineering, there is no telecast. And the miles of cables that are laid out, the work that the camera crew and the VT crew and the stats crew puts in, you get the feeling that what we do is a party. It's a discipline that I put on myself, that I try and always remind myself that somebody else is working much harder on the crew to allow you to look like this cool guy who's in control all the time. So we are the icing on the cake. Cake looks terrible without the icing, I agree, but you don't only buy icing.
So if I'm watching a cricket game,
Yeah.
there are two commentators.
Oh, yeah, okay, yeah.
Who does what?
There is a caller, and the caller will call. And then there is a summarizer. Increasingly, we have three these days. And the lines are blurring.
Can you give me an example of calling, summarizing, and the third is?
Yeah. So for example, there is, say, Kuldeep's bowling to maybe a Joe Root, or he's bowling to a Stokes. And I'll call the action. I'll say Stokes didn't read the wrong one. He's trapped in front. I pause because I've called the action. I've told people what happened in hopefully as interesting a way as possible. And then why it happened, why did Stokes not read it out of the hand or whatever, that is the call of the summarizer who's been there, done it before. So the roles are clearly demarcated, and it works best when the roles are demarcated like that. Now, sometimes the expert might be offering a point of view and suddenly something happens on the ground. I'm absolutely fine if they keep going and call the action. So sometimes they blur, but it's best if they are demarcated.
So
in my case, it's easier because I set limits on myself. There are parts that I cannot go to because I don't have the bandwidth to. Even if I have the bandwidth, I don't have the CV to justify doing that. So in my case, it's a lot easier. But if you play 100 tests and you're a caller, and then people suddenly say, but why are you asking someone? You know it yourself, right? So but I'd like it to go back to how it is in the football model.
Which is?
Where there's a clear caller and there's a clear expert. And the caller calls, the expert explains.
How do you go about preparing for a game?
At the start of a series, a little bit more. At the start of a test match, a little bit more. Much more on before day one of a test match. I'll probably have 2 or 3 pages of notes. The stats person would have sent you a stats pack for the day that will give you ground stats.
So you get a
stats.
docket every day.
Yeah, you get a docket every day.
And one before the series as well about what are the important
but
things?
You get 2 kinds of dockets these days. There's someone like Mohandas Menon, for example, who's the perfect all-time great test match cricket commentary stats person. And there is increasingly the analytics person who will tell you, for example, that when Bumrah's bowling fifth stump line to Joe Root, this is what has tended to happen over the past. So you know why. You bring that up only when Root comes into bat, Bumrah's immediately pressed in, then you know why that has happened. You already have those numbers with you, so you've got to have read that before. Sometimes the producer will prompt you in your ear, but the producer's got lots on his or her head. So suppose there's a wicket and Root's coming out. I'll suddenly have what Mohan has already given me, Root's average against spin bowling in the last 2 years. So I've got that in front of me, so I can relate to that. So I'll carry that with me every time.
So how much of what is said is a function of the stats, the analytics team? How much of that is your own gut?
When there was lesser cricket, you remembered that much more. But now there's a game that comes every day. But yes, you do remember. And sometimes you actually then tell the producer, can I get that out? I remember this spell Bumrah bowled in Visakhapatnam. One of the great spells by a fast bowler you'll ever see. And I'll say, I remember he troubled this batter a lot. So do you have a little bit of that? And so they'll put that out. So I've asked for it. The producer will tell me it's ready. And only then will I start leading to it.
Batters say when they're timing the ball correctly, they are in form. There are certain shots that they're hitting, they are in form. How do you define whether you're in form or you're not in form?
There is no greater joy than when you say, pitched outside off. When someone's appealed and you say, no, that's pitched outside off. And then suddenly you're thinking, oh, did it? Because now they've gone into a review and there's the mat appearing. And then when it pitches outside off, you say, I got that right. You feel good when you get that right. But if you don't call it, sometimes we all go through and saying, that could be close. You can say that is close. That's okay. But that could be close. But that you can say too, right? Why do you need to pay me to say that could be close?
Exactly.
So when we are not sure, we tend to sort of sit on the fence a little bit, but that's inevitable. It's a live telecast. When you're doing live, you will make mistakes as you go along, because as my mother used to tell us when you were growing up, to be careful with words. Once the word leaves you, it's like an arrow that's left. You can't pull it back unless it's a cereal with special effects, you're pulling it back. So you will make mistakes, and sometimes suddenly the backdrop won't be great. Sometimes little things go wrong, but it's live. And you understand that in live, that's what happens. So we are fighter pilots.
I'll take the fighter pilot analogy with the Dreamliner a little further, because what is live is live. But these days, what is live can also be preserved for posterity, put online 800,000 times with how did Harsha make that mistake? How do you navigate through that kind of pressure? And just like the stock market, it's a zero-sum game, right? Someone wins, someone loses. There's one section of the audience who's always going to be unhappy.
The easiest decisions to take are the ones you don't have to take. So if a captain changes the ball, has a new bowler bowling, the easiest thing is to say, usko kyun diya, isko dena chahiye tha. Because you don't have to take that decision is the easiest one to take. Because you don't have to do commentary on a high pressure situation, it is the easiest thing in the world to do. And say, how did he get it wrong? There's a million things going on in your head. Typically, the best thing to do is call the action. Just pause for a little while, though that's going out of fashion, and then build up to create the excitement. But we've got to build the excitement increasingly, because the commentator is no longer just a voice. There is that comcam, as we call it, which is filming it, and more on social media, you're using that. So I hope we don't get to a stage where commentators start enacting commentary. It's happening.
I'm sure a lot of people are doing it.
It's not something I'm very pleased about, because your primary job is to tell the story of what is happening in front, not how you tell the story or how you're dressed to tell the story or how you're just enacting that situation. No, your job is to tell the story. So tell the story. If it looks good on Comcam, it looks good on Comcam. It's okay. But I fear a day will come when commentators will start enacting commentary.
The day is not too far, given
I
the
think
sort
it's
of
here.
videos that
in
are
some
there.
cases, it's here.
It's here. Speaking about the moment, how aware are you of that moment, in that moment, about the posterity of that moment? Case in point, it is Sachin's retirement. It's not going to come back again. But at the same time, you have to stay true to what is happening on the ground. How do you manage that? How do you, measure your words with the gravity of the situation at that point in time?
You let your instincts take over, but you're constantly aware. If you are providing the voice, as I was very privileged to be able to do on Sachin's last, on the 20 minutes, 25 minutes there, is to be acutely aware that this is all about the pictures. Your voice is a little accompaniment to the emotion of the picture. Don't screw up that moment. Don't spoil the moment by making it about you. It is not about you, it is about him. And the soundtrack can never dominate the visual. So you just stay in the background. I realized that the pictures were so powerful that there was no point in describing the pictures, because the picture is telling a story better than words could ever tell you. So you'll realize it as you watch that again, if you ever do, please do.
Multiple times.
That there are lots of pauses. What the pauses were also allowing me to do was let my emotion come down a little bit, and to remember the stories, because I was the satellite to Tendulkar's solar system. Our career started little around the same time, and because Tendulkar was a star, people started, the soundtrack that accompanied Tendulkar's stardom got noticed too. So we were in effect the satellites glowing, reflecting the light of Tendulkar. So as a result, I'd seen him for a long time. So I knew what was happening, but that was still a little easier than, say, what's now called 18.5.
Yeah, exactly. You led me up to that. I don't know whether there was a plan or not, because Kohli
I've been in your chair a few times.
Kohli goes down the ground, Kohli goes out of the ground. Talk me through that.
The 3 or 4 pieces of commentary that I'm proudest of. This is definitely one of those, and without doubt, the most difficult commentary stint that I've ever done in my life. Because here is a game that's almost gone. It's an India Pakistan game. The emotion behind an India Pakistan game, nobody is watching it rationally. I remember Peter Drury telling me we have to remain rational in spite of the fact that the audience is always irrational. So, how do you stay rational when you know everybody is watching it irrationally? The same commentary clip is going out to India, it's going out to Pakistan, it's going out all over the world. Everybody, this is the most watched clip. And the game is almost gone and it starts to turn around.
Yeah.
And you've got to be in that moment. But when Kohli plays that shot, I say Kohli goes down the ground because I have no idea that ball's going for six, because that shot does not go for six. It's very, very rare that a player has the skill to play that shot for a six. So I don't know it's going for a six. If he plays this one, which he does on 18.6, you can see as soon as it hit the bat that it's probably going for six. 18.5, anybody tells you they knew that it's going for a six, they're either high on something or they're lying. So that is why the first line is Kohli goes down the ground, and then suddenly there's amazement in my own voice. I said, that went out of the ground. So hence Kohli goes out of the ground. But I was just reacting to the situation. Then there's a second six, and the game is not over yet. So I cannot, for example, say, yeah, man, Kohli, you're the dude, you're the biggest, you're the superstar, you're smashing them, man, which a major part of my audience wants me to say.
Yes.
But I cannot, because I will look incredibly stupid if then he gets out in the next over and India lose that game by 4 runs. So I have to stay in the moment. My audience expects me to do something which I cannot do. Now, remember, my responsibility as a world feed broadcaster is this game is being watched in Pakistan too. Now, if I say, yeah, man, Kohli, you're the greatest, you did this. What about those guys? Would you like it if a Pakistani commentator responded to, say, Babar hitting Bumrah for 6 and saying, hey, Bumrah, what are you, man? This is Babar. We won't like it. So I've got to keep that in mind. Then you come to the commentary that I actually enjoyed a little bit more, which was, what are you doing, Nawaz?
Yes.
When the ball misses the leg stump. Incredible presence of mind from Ravichandran Ashwin. Who leaves a ball at that stage? Who leaves a ball? Can you imagine the extraordinary composure in his mind? If he leaves the ball and it nicks the pad, you're looking like the most stupid person on the planet. Then when the match is over, I had only thought of one line. I said, if India win and Kohli takes us through, this is the line that might make sense, but I cannot keep thinking of the line because then I'm going ahead of myself. So the line I had in my mind was, these are the kind of innings, Virat, that take you from the present into legend. I say it after the game is over. I cannot say it while the game is on. Can you imagine? I'm saying, this is the kind of innings, Virat, that makes you a legend. Boom, next ball, top edge, out. And he's like, hey, I can't lie. So that gets lost in the clip. Now, you asked me about doing commentary for clips. In the clip, you get a bit of commentary. When the game ends, you get that. When Kohli is walking back, I said, these are the kind of innings, Virat, that take you from the present into the legend. That doesn't make the clip, but that is the line that I was most satisfied.